It's 1380 BC. You're 12 years old. You live in a kingdom in what's now northern Syria, and your father has just agreed to something he'll describe for the rest of his life as an honor. He's sending you to Egypt. He'll never see you again, neither will your mother, and within a few years, neither of them will be able to find out whether you're still alive. Nobody says that part out loud. What they say is that the Pharaoh of Egypt has asked for women, that your family has been chosen, and that you are lucky. Everyone repeats it until you're the one repeating it. The negotiation takes months, and none of it is about you. The letters between these kings are about gold, how much, what purity, whether the last shipment looked closer to silver. Somewhere in those columns is a line item, and the line item is a girl. Your mother packs for you. She packs as though you're going to need things. You are 13 the morning the column forms. 317 women, soldiers front and back, carts of cloth and copper and cattle behind, because one girl on a road is not a treaty, and this is a treaty. You find your mother in the crowd, at the gate, then the column starts moving, and that's it. There's no second goodbye. You're walking and she's standing still, and the distance between those two things becomes the rest of your life. Months of road, mountains, then desert. At the border, the escort changes hands, and the men who speak your language turn around and go home. Watch them go. They're the last ones. The first thing Egypt does to you is count you. A man with a reed pen walks the line, and his count doesn't match the tally he was sent, so he does it again. It takes most of an afternoon, and you stand in the sun for all of it. He doesn't ask a single name, not one, out of 317. You'd assume the whole way for months that you were going to a palace. Gold, cushions, a pharaoh. Well, you're going to a town. It's called Merwer, Great Canal, about 60 miles south of where Cairo is now. Walls, storerooms, granaries, workshops, a temple, and a gate with a man on it whose written job title translates, roughly, as the one who locks up the ornamented ones. The princess you walked behind goes to the pharaoh. She's a wife. You go to the weaving rooms. You are 14 when you find out what you actually are, and it isn't a concubine, because Egypt has no word for that. Concubine is our word. We attached it later because the truth is much harder to sell. You're staff. This estate owns fields, herds, and mills. It takes in grain and cloth as income, it pays tax to nobody, and is run top to bottom by men, scribes, inspectors, overseers, tax collectors. And what it manufactures is linen, the finest in Egypt. Royal grade, woven so fine that a noble woman can wear it, and you can see straight through it somewhere around 15 threads to the centimeter on a wooden loom, by hand, by you. Every item that leaves this building is marked with the same two words. First, quality. Nobody tells you what that costs until you're doing it. The thread has to be spun to nothing, your fingertips split and heal wrong and split again, your shoulders lock. There's a particular ache at the base of the skull that comes from looking down all day, and it will be with you, on and off, for 20 years. The bread is good though. That's the part that confuses you longest. Because before any weaving happens, you have to be made presentable, and that takes 3 hours. It starts with a wash. A younger girl tips a basin of river water over you and hopes somebody notices how well she did it. Then oil, because skin cracks in this air without it. Then your eyes. The black is coal, ground from a mineral that is, chemically, lead. It goes on your eyelids every morning of your life. The Egyptians believe it turns away the evil eye and cuts the glare off the sand, and they're right about the glare. Nobody in this room knows what it's doing to the rest of you. Green for the lids, ground from copper ore, red ochre for the mouth. Then the wig, human hair, somebody's, sewn into a braided cap and set with beeswax. It itches. It itches in a way you can't reach and can't scratch in company, and taking it off after dark is the best moment of most days. On top of it goes a cone of scented fat, which melts through the afternoon and runs down your neck. By evening, you smell extraordinary, and your hairline is a disaster. 3 hours. Every morning, and most days, nobody comes. The language goes next, and it goes without you noticing. Nobody here speaks yours. A few of the older foreign women did once, but they've been inside 20 years and stopped. And when you try them, the words come back slow and in the wrong order. So you learn Egyptian because you have to eat and be understood and take instruction. And somewhere in your 3rd year, you go looking for the word your mother used for a particular kind of evening light, and it isn't there. You sit with that a long time. There's nobody in Egypt you can ask. You are 15 when a woman comes to look at you properly in daylight and turns your face by the chin, the way you'd turn a jar you were considering buying. Next morning, you're given a veil. There's a grammar in that. The young ones are the nefrut, the beautiful ones of the palace. Above them are the merut nesut, the beloved ones of the king. An official in charge of the palace oils wrote his own duties down. He handed veils to the beautiful ones and ornaments to the beloved ones. So a veil isn't a gift, it's a rank, and every woman in the room can read it on you at a glance. You want the ornaments. Obviously, you want the ornaments. It takes years to see that the wanting was the design, that somebody built a ladder inside a locked building so the women inside would spend their lives climbing it instead of looking at the door. You are 16 the night you're summoned. They oil you, someone does your hair, someone fastens something cold and heavy at your throat, and you catch yourself thinking it suits you. Then you're walking a corridor behind the man with the keys. He unlocks a door. He doesn't come in. The morning after is the part that stays with you because nothing happens. Water arrives. Your loom is where you left it with your quota on it, unchanged because the quota doesn't care. You're given ornaments. Your mat moves one room over. That's the whole ceremony. Jewelry and an address entered in a ledger by a man who has still never said your name out loud. Twice a year there are banquets, and they are genuinely wonderful, which is its own kind of cruelty. Roast goose, beef on the bone, figs, dates, pomegranates, honey cakes with cinnamon, beer thick enough to chew, and Delta wine in sealed jars, each one docketed, which vintage of the rain, which vineyard, and which man pressed it. Remember that. The wine has a name on it. You stand with the singers and you play and you do not drink because you're working. Once a year, that flips. There's a festival for the goddess of music and drunkenness where getting completely destroyed is the actual religious requirement. Drums, dancing, no rules until dawn. One night. You'll think about it for the other 364. You are 17 the year the Babylonians come, and this is the day you understand exactly how alone you are. Their king has a sister. She was sent here years ago the way you were, with an escort and a dowry and a treaty, and since then, nothing. No letter anyone can verify. So he sends envoys to find her. The women are assembled. You stand in a line while foreign men walk down it looking for a face they know. They go home and report that they couldn't identify her. The Pharaoh's reply survives on a clay tablet you could hold in your palm. He repeats the complaint back nobody has seen her, nobody knows if she's alive, and then explains that the problem is Babylon's. Send someone who actually knows her face, someone who could hold a conversation with her. It isn't a denial. Read it again. It's a note about paperwork. And you're in that line doing the arithmetic. A princess with an empire behind her cannot be located inside this building. You ask, later, who carries letters north? You're told politely, by someone not being cruel, that letters go between kings. There is no channel. There was never going to be one. Nobody chose that as a punishment for you. It simply doesn't exist. And somehow, that's worse. You are 19 when the child comes, and this is the single most dangerous day of your life. Estimates for the ancient world put death in childbirth somewhere between 1 in 10 and 1 in 20. You have better care than a farmer's wife, midwives, a confinement room, a birthing brick painted with a mother and child, amulets of the hippo goddess who guards pregnancy, and the dwarf god who frightens off whatever comes for newborns in the dark. You squat because the Egyptians worked out that gravity helps. You live, plenty don't, and when one doesn't, her mat is reassigned before the next morning's count because the count has to balance. He's yours for about 4 years. Then the palace takes him kindly, which is the worst version. There's a school inside these households where royal sons, official sons, and boys like yours are raised together. He comes out literate, useful, and loyal for life to whoever is Pharaoh next. Everyone tells you this is the best possible outcome for him, and everyone is telling the truth. He grows up Egyptian, literate in a script you can't read, in the language that took your own. You are 21 when a new column arrives. You hear it before you see it: carts, soldiers, a scribe arguing about a tally, girls standing in road dirt while a man counts them twice. One of them tries you. She's maybe 14. And what she says is nearly your language, close enough that your mouth starts moving before your head does. It comes out slow, in the wrong order, and she watches you struggle with it. You've become the old foreign woman, the one you were warned about at 14 and swore you'd never turn into. It took 8 years. There's other work besides linen, and this is the part outsiders never guess. The Egyptian word for the women here is also the ordinary word for a troupe of singers and dancers. That isn't a metaphor. You perform drums, clappers, voices in the temple and at court for gods that weren't yours when you were a child. One overseer had his duties carved into his own tomb wall in his own words. He conducts the women, he has access to the secret place, he sees the dance in the private quarters. Somebody was proud enough of watching you dance to put it on the wall he planned to spend eternity in. You're good at it as it happens, and there's nowhere on earth you can take that. You are 24 when they move you down a room. Nobody announces it. A younger girl needs the space is yours, and one afternoon, your mat is somewhere else and nobody meets your eye. The ornaments stay, the summons stops. In the arithmetic of this household, you've already happened. What's left is time, and there's a great deal of it. Board games, gardens, the same women, the same courtyard, the same walls for 20 years. The Pharaoh, incidentally, you have seen perhaps 4 times. His day is priests, ritual, and administration, and he sleeps in another palace in another city. The great love affair you were sold at 12 amounted to one night and a change of jewelry. When he finally dies, the household is redistributed. Some women pass to the next pharaoh. Some are pensioned onto estates and issued a standing ration: bread, beer, oil, linen, which is more security than most Egyptians will ever see. You're moved, you're counted on arrival. And when your own turn comes, somewhere in your 30s, they bury you properly, because this institution looks after its own: a wig, a chair, sealed jars of scented oil, and fruit for a journey, and a set of small carved figures whose entire purpose is to stand up and answer when your name is called for labor in the next world, so you don't have to work through eternity too. Nobody had ever written your name down. The figures will be answering to nothing. Under the floors of that town, archaeologists have found groups of possessions deliberately burned and buried indoors. One reading connects it to a foreign custom about a woman who dies away from her father's house. It's argued about and unsettled, and nobody can explain why your things were burned. The record stops there. In March 1889, an English archaeologist digging that town noted that beads could be picked up out of the surface dust by hand. Roughly 40% of what came out of it is jewelry, the ornaments they gave the ornamented ones, still lying in the dirt 3,000 years later. Children's toys, too. Boxes with the owner's things still inside, and no biography attached to any of them. Egypt had a punishment worse than execution. They'd chisel your name off your monument so you couldn't be remembered, and a person who isn't remembered doesn't continue. They never had to do that to you. They simply never wrote it in the first place, and the result is identical. We can still read the wine labels vineyard, vintage, and the name of the man who pressed it. We can still read the stelae the officials put up for themselves in the temple: I, Jarwi, Mahu, and Seti, royal scribe, overseer of the women of the harem of Merwer. 3,500 years later, we know what the winemaker was called. We know what the man with the keys did for a living. Your father never did find out whether you were alive,